Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Rivalry Report. I'm Paulette. I am a part of Brownstone Worldwide, but over to the other side of me, over here, y'all. Take a look. Go ahead, Heather. Introduce yourself, girl.
Hey everyone, I'm Heather Asianbi, and I am a journalist, editor, writer, and storyteller and lover of stories. Um, and I am coming at you from Milwaukee, which is why we're not in the same room.
That's why, because I'm in Georgia, girl. I'm
Oh,
in Georgia, y'all. Yes. So, good afternoon, first of all.
well,
Hello.
good
Good
afternoon,
evening.
evening,
Good
morning,
morning.
whenever you're seeing this.
Right. So let's jump right into it. So first of all, the rivalry report. Heather brought up something that was really interesting when we were having our little green room section segment before we started. And if you notice, the colors of our logo is orange, and it is gold, white, and some black. You can barely see it though, and blue, royal blue to be exact. Why is that, Heather? Why is it called the rivalry report?
Well, here's the thing. You might think it's a little odd after I say this, given our respective young ages. But
Yes.
uh, Paulette she may live in Georgia now, but she is from Milwaukee.
Yep.
And she went to Riverside High School, and I went to Rufus King. And when we were in high school, I believe they might still be rivals, but they were rivals when we were in school.
Yep.
And we just also, so we thought, okay, well, it's our high schools, right? And those, all of our friends, viewers, watchers, subscribers who are from Milwaukee will get it. We thought it was funny. Plus, we love alliteration. So, rivalry report, we love alliteration.
Rivalry
So
report.
that
Yes.
that worked out. Now, what I do have to say though is we did not plan our outfits today. We
No,
did
we
not talk
didn't.
to each other beforehand. Paulette just happens to be in an orange type color, and I'm always going to be in blue or green or black usually. So that's just how that worked out. But that is how we came up with the rivalry report.
Yes, that
But
is
the
how.
reason why we wanted to do this is I don't know if you've all noticed, but there's a lot of disruption in American government and society these days. And Paulette and I, um, we don't feel like there's enough independent voice
No.
helping dig in a little bit deeper into some of these issues. We know that
Hmm.
corporate media has kind of, I mean, they're still present, but they've kind of exited stage left, right? They're
Right.
not really reporting on what's happening.
Right.
Um, and so we thought, well, why don't we do this, right? Like, we're both veteran media journalist people.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this?
Yep. I agree. And it's time to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, Heather, and to everyone that's watching this. The biggest reason why I felt, and I know that you are just as passionate about it. We are, Heather. We gotta stop. Hang on, just a second. Just a second. I'm sorry. My nose is literally running.
Okay, I'm pausing. I'm just gonna hit pause. Go.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the reasons why I felt it was important was because I go live a lot,
Hmm.
and I realized that the people that were trolling the most or providing ill information were ill informed about what was really the premise and the basis of this country. Why are we in the situation that we're in? How did we end up here? Well, we have to start at the beginning. And the beginning begins at so many things that have happened in history that we should have learned in our respective elementary schools. Let's not even talk about by the time you got to high school and you got the thick
Yeah.
history book, right? And you were supposed to have everything that you needed in that book was that we're going to be sharing with you guys. So part of what the rivalry report is about is doing a review, I think, of starting with the review, but then we're also going to be talking about the things that are happening here in this country and around the world globally that are impacting each and every one of us in so many different ways. like what's happening right now in Texas, like what's happening in Washington, D.C., which Heather and I are going to be discussing here briefly, but understanding why things are happening the way that they are and what your rights are. Because one of the things that I'm also noticing in these conversations that I'm having when I'm going live and when people are responding, Heather, to posts that we share or via email is, what can we do?
Yeah.
We have power.
Yeah. I think that so this is, I really want people to understand that while Paulette and I are independent creators, right? We are doing this together, coming together as a duo. We are independent. We are not backed by corporations. We are doing this all with our own time, effort, and money.
Yes.
But what we're going to do also is make sure you have receipts. So under each episode, you're going to find some detailed show notes that also list all the sources where we're getting our information from.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be reputable other media. Some of it might be corporate, but it'll largely not be. Government studies, white papers from independent organizations like the Kaiser Family Foundation, people that we may talk to, right? Like we may be preparing for an episode and we might need to call someone where we're going to make sure that, that's listed in our sources, right? We want you to be as informed, understand where we're coming from. But this is why that's important. Currently, for every legitimate news site, there are 5 disinformation sites available. And the reason why that's important is these disinformation sites, I'm just going to put it, they're bullshit. It takes no money to to buy a domain, put up a website, and have it automatically fed with information that is neither vetted or fact-checked, or they just run it automatically. And so all this disinformation makes its way into the mainstream, whereas over here, you have a legitimate news site that the reason why legitimate news sites are so outnumbered is because, shockingly enough, journalists expect to get paid for their work.
Yes.
Journalists are making calls, so many phone calls, checking sources, doing research, going to events. Like a person is actually doing that, and that person needs to get paid for that work. So that's another reason why we really thought it was important to start the Rivalry Report, so that we could provide another credible, independent news source, because there's many out there, and we'll, at some point we'll list them all for you guys so that you can do it. It won't be today, but we'll provide that. But that's another reason why we wanted to start this.
Yes. And it's so important. If we didn't care, if we thought that where we currently are in this country was, and in the world globally, if I thought, let me just say that, I can't speak for Heather, but I'm going to say this. If I thought that we were okay, there would be really no need, but there's always been a need, because I'm paying attention to the folks who are literally providing misinformation on bills that have not passed the House or the Senate, but it's making its way into media. Misinformation on how Congress literally works, or the legislative branch, or the executive branch. And so I think, not the legislative, but the judicial branch. So when we look at all of these different branches of government, which is what I know we are discussing today, I think it's important for us to truly grab some pens, grab some paper, call somebody, let someone know, tag someone, tell them to subscribe to the Rivalry Report on YouTube, and get this information, because this is what is going to empower you to make the decisions that you need to make.
So this is our first episode, and we thought it was really important to start with Civics 101.
You got it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Paulette. Dive in.
All right. So first things first, what we want to do is let's dig directly into, and yes, I took notes. I did. Don't
I have
care.
my notes are on my screen, so if I like keep looking down, it's because you're here, but the notes are here.
And it's okay, because what we have to do is number one, I want to touch on a couple things, because I think it's also important for us to be paying attention to what's happening in the news right now,
100%.
and why this is so important. So Heather, what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now?
So many of you may not know, but Washington, D.C. is not a state. So it doesn't have senators or representatives in the House or the Senate to speak for them. They obviously can participate in all federal elections, but they're pretty limited with their representation. And so they fall directly under the control of Congress and the executive branch, which is the president.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening right now is that President Trump is saying that Washington, D.C. has a crime rate that is out of control, which is, I'm just going to say it, that's a lie.
That's a lie.
And so he's using that as the excuse to take control of law enforcement in Washington, D.C. by mobilizing the National Guard. And then he's getting support from at least 6 Republican governors who have sent additional National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. But they're also, it's not just National Guard. There's the Department of Homeland Security, there's ICE, the FBI, ATF, DEA. Like, there's a lot of federal agencies now who are enforcing law and order in a city that has had a decreasing crime rate year after year after year after year after year. And in fact, 43 cities, this is a verifiable fact, 43 cities in the 6 states that sent troops, they have higher crime rates than Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But why this is important, you might be like, well, Washington, D.C. is under federal control. What does that have to do with me in Milwaukee or somebody in Atlanta or Phoenix or wherever, right? This is often the first step to a complete authoritarian takedown.
That part.
And so so what's happening in DC, yes, super important for us to pay attention, but that's what's currently happening in the news. So once we go through our discussion of Civics 101, it'll become a little bit more clear on why you need to really pay attention to that. So Paulette, what else is going on in the news?
All right. What else is happening in the news is we've got a sister who is being held in the House of the state of Texas in Dallas-Fort Worth. Her name is, her last name is Collier. Now, I will say
Nicole,
that.
I believe.
Nicole. Her name is Nicole Collier. She is a Democrat, and she is standing firm. Now, for those of you all who are not familiar with what has occurred, about 3 weeks ago or so, the governor of Greg Abbott, to be exact, they call him Hot Wheels, by the way, Governor Hot Wheels. Greg Abbott decided that he wanted to redistrict his state to provide Donald Trump with 5 additional congressional seats or GOP seats, right? That would allow him, according to in his little mind, it would allow him to be able to win, quote unquote, the GOP seats he's needed in order to remain in power during the midterms. Well, in order for him to do that, he's got to have enough seats, folks. And he doesn't have enough seats right now. Okay. He's fully aware. Let's go here. He's fully aware that he has to gerrymander, which is illegal. He has to redistrict specific areas. The unfortunate part about this is that because of that, it is going to disproportionately impact Black and Brown communities. And that's the issue.
I think the timing of it is also crucial, though.
Yes.
Because this is mid-decade.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. You know, the census we do every year, everyone?
Yeah.
You gotta fill out how many people live in your house, your ethnic background, and education and all that sort of thing. We do that every 10 years. And that's how congressional maps get drawn. every 10 years to account for population changes.
Yes.
To do it mid-decade is, I want to say it's unprecedented, but I will find out for sure if it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up. That is absolutely correct. I know as a journalist that you have fact checked that. So yes, ma'am, we'll definitely be sharing more of that. But listen, the unfortunate part about it is that we've had a group of the Dems or Democrats who actually left the state. That is their right to do so, to break quorum so that this does not pass. So unfortunately, Greg Abbott has decided that he wanted to have warrants put out for their arrest and so forth. Well, a couple of them have come back to the state. Some have not. For those who did, they went into session and they were told you have to sign a permission slip in order to have someone accompany you throughout your daily life to make sure that you don't leave. Well, Ms. Collier said her exact words were, hell no, I'm not going. I'm not going to do it. And they said that they were going to actually hold her. And so she was actually ready for this. And according to some of the research that I did earlier today, they are fully aware that when they refuse this kind of order by their house, that they can be held against their will, quote unquote.
I did not know that.
Yes.
That is banana pants.
Unheard of. I did not know that was a thing. But I did do that research earlier today, and that's why her bags were packed. She was ready, honey. She had her satin bonnet. She was packed, literally.
Okay, I just have a question though.
Yeah.
Why was she the only Democrat to be like, I'm not signing this?
Like that.
Why is she standing by herself in that? Now all the other Democrats are like, well, we're going to tear ours up.
Why didn't you do it at the beginning?
Why did you sign it in the first place?
Exactly. Why?
Anyway, okay, sorry, go on.
But you're right, absolutely. So you bring up an excellent point, and I wish that I had better answers. But during her time there, Democrat Gene Wu has stood with her, even though he signed it. He decided to stay with her so she wouldn't be by herself. That's number one. And she was going to be in there for 2 days until they went back into session today. Well, now there are other Democrats who are literally saying, I'm not going anywhere. This is not what we're going to do. The last that I checked, they were still in session and they were absolutely being refused the opportunity to speak clearly. And I guess whomever, I forgot his name, who's the head of their particular house, he was basically like, no, I'm not answering that. We're not answering that. We're not answering that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are just two really good examples. And admittedly, they're not happening in Wisconsin and they're not happening in Georgia, but that doesn't mean they couldn't, right? That doesn't mean that they couldn't. And so, those are just two really recent examples that are actually not even recent. They are happening. The suffix means right now. They're happening right now. So that's another reason why we really felt like bringing you, the Civics 101. We're about to dive into that, but it's astounding. So, but can I just preface our discussion just with a statistic?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. 66% of Americans don't know how a bill gets passed through Congress, and they cannot name the Supreme Court justices. 66%. So our civic miseducation, uneducation, missing education is when we don't have civic literacy.
Yeah.
This is how authoritarianism can take root and grow so quickly.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so this is our little way, which I don't even think it's all that little, because here we are.
It's not. It's not.
But this is our contribution to helping combat the miseducation, the disinformation, all of that sort of thing. So anyway, there's that.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it. We're going to start with Congress in Civics 101. So I'm going to go ahead and get started first. And then Heather's going to jump in, and then I guess we'll kind of piggyback off of each other for the executive branch if you want to do that. All right, so let's jump right into Congress. So there are 3 branches of government, folks. 3 branches. They were created so that we could have checks and balances. Why do we need checks and balances, folks? So that it is fair and equal across the board for everyone who lives in the United States of America. Not just Americans who were born here, but for everyone. But then that's an entirely different conversation about the Constitution, which of course we're going to get to.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into Congress. It is the legislative branch of the United States government created under, y'all got y'all pens? Because I feel like we need to go on ahead and make sure that we go on ahead and give them a test later. We need a test. It's created under Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Remember, I just said we need to talk about the Constitution? Well, let's get started. Now, here's what it does. It actually has extensive powers, folks, and they're divided into a couple of different categories. So what I did was I broke it down so that you guys, we can kind of go through this. Number 1, Article 1, write this down. I sound like a teacher because guess what?
You do sound like a teacher.
I need y'all to write this down. Article 1, Section 1. Here are their enumerated powers. Here are the specific powers for Congress written directly into the Constitution. Why am I saying it like this? Because let me hear one more or read one more person who is part of that large percentage of folks that Heather just talked about who doesn't know that this is in the Constitution and we're not lying to you. Here we go. They have lawmaking power, folks. They make laws for the nation. How simple is that? Number 2, taxation and spending. That's the other thing.
That's the budget.
Yep. Now, here's what they do. Let me break that down. It's 3 bullet points. They lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excise taxes. Okay? Here's something else they do. They borrow money on the credit of the United States. And they provide for the general welfare.
Ooh, we need to bring Schoolhouse Rock back.
Yes, because that would so help so many people, right?
Oh, man.
All right, here's the other thing that they do. Commerce power. They regulate trade and commerce with foreign nations. Okay? Now, here's something else they do a lot of people are not aware of. It's also interstate commerce, folks. It's not just with other nations. And Native American tribes. Okay? Number 4, defense and military. They can declare war. Did you hear what I just said? So we can't just be running around here, just one person make a decision for everybody. It has to be done through a what? An act of Congress to raise and support armies and navies and to regulate the armed forces, folks, and the National Guard. Sounding familiar, especially after what we just talked about? Number 5.
Familiar is how many Congress people are derelict in their duty.
Derelict in their duty because they probably don't even know.
How's
that?
Laugh, but that's so sad. Okay, anyways, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Currency and economy. They coin money and regulate its value. We've been hearing a lot about that lately, haven't we? And how the value of the American dollar is literally slipping away. And they also establish bankruptcy laws. Okay?
Yep.
Here's something else they do, folks. Your postal infrastructure is established through your Congress. So they establish post offices and postal roads. Here's a big one, folks. Immigration and naturalization. They establish rules for becoming a U.S. citizen. Not the president and not anyone else. They themselves, the Congress that you voted in, establish the rules for becoming a U.S. citizen. Federal courts and governance. It creates courts lower than the Supreme Court. and repeat this because Heather talked about it earlier, to govern the District of Columbia, which we know is not a state. They are run by whom?
Congress.
Bingo. Now, let's talk about the necessary and proper clause. Here are their implied powers. Now, a lot of people actually call it the elastic clause. You might have heard that and been like, what they talking about, a rubber band? No, this is what the implied powers are. It gives Congress flexibility to pass laws needed to carry out specific powers. For example, Congress has the power to regulate commerce, so it can pass laws on the following: banking, labor, and civil rights, even though they aren't explicitly written in the Constitution. Are light bulbs going on out there, folks? I hope so. Checks and balances. Remember, I talked about that in the beginning of this conversation. Now, Congress also plays a critical role in checking the powers of the other branches. Oh my God. Okay, calm down. Okay, on the executive, which is the president, they can override, listen closely, they can override veto, a presidential veto with a 2/3 vote in both chambers.
Which
They
is difficult.
approve.
Like
It's difficult.
That's a difficult bar to clear, but
it is. Now, they also approve presidential appointments, which is your Senate, ratifies the treaties, that's your Senate, holds the power of the purse, controls federal spending, and they can impeach and remove your president. Let me say that again, folks, and then think about what we just talked about. They can impeach and remove the president. But if your president is making his efforts known that I need to stay in power by keeping the GOP in position in both the Senate and the House, all right, y'all, are the wheels turning yet?
There we go.
Judiciary. This is something else with the checks and balances that Congress handles. They established those lower federal courts. We talked about that. Approving judicial appointments. That's the Senate. Impeaching and removing judges and proposing constitutional amendments to overturn judicial rulings. Now, they each also have this: exclusive powers of each chamber. House of Representatives initiates revenue tax bills, and they have the sole power of impeachment. And right now, it is GOP run. Let's talk about the Senate. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Nope, go.
No, you're good. Okay. Confirms presidential appointments, judges, cabinet officials, ambassadors, ratifies treaties with the 2/3 vote. We just talked about that, and hold impeachment titles or trials. Here's their limits. The Constitution also restricts Congress. For example, they cannot punish people retroactively. That's called the ex post facto law. You ever heard of that? That's what it's talking about. They cannot suspend habeas corpus except in rebellion of war.
Which, okay, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I know you're ready. I'm ready. I'm almost done. Okay. Cannot pass attainder, bills of attainder, laws that punish without trial. Oh my God, today I need my fan. Are we watching that right now? Okay. And they must respect the Bill of Rights. So basically, let me just wrap this up in a pretty little bow. Congress makes laws, controls the money, oversees the executive and judicial branches, and represents the people and the states. That's it. End of story. Okay. And there's so much more I could say, but go ahead, Heather. I'm so sorry.
All right. So moving on.
Yep.
Branch number 2, which is the executive branch, which is the president, and the cabinet, and as an extension, federal agencies. So we have the presidency, Oval Office. We have the cabinet, so the secretaries of defense, state, education, transportation, commerce, all of those. And then the agencies that operate under them. So that would be DEA, ATF, Department of Human Services. Well, that's a secretary, but anything that falls under there, right? So all the agencies that do the work of the cabinet departments. Now, what the executive also well, and the vice president is also part of the executive branch. Their specific jobs are actually quite simple. They're very simple. The executive branch's job is to follow the laws that Congress passes.
Super easy.
That's it. That is literally it. The president signs or vetoes a bill. If the president signs the bill, the cabinets and all the agencies underneath take what their job is in the bill and go and do the job. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
So
now, go ahead.
Be quiet.
No. Okay. When a president vetoes a bill, like Paulette was talking about, the bill goes back to Congress where they can take up another vote. Both houses, Senate and the House, have to pass it by 2/3. That is an incredibly high bar to reach. And it happens so rarely that almost every piece of legislation that is vetoed either dies or it starts getting reconfigured into something that the president would sign, right? So just because the president vetoes a bill and Congress doesn't immediately take it up doesn't mean that it's dead. That legislation may need to just meet some conditions, or there's more negotiation that will go on between the president and Congress in order to get all parties on the same page. Okay.
Right.
Now, the president also, as I'm sure some of y'all have noticed, issues executive orders.
Yes.
Now, executive orders, contrary to popular belief, and it doesn't matter who's in the White House, this is a popular belief, that an executive order is a law. That is not true.
Right.
An executive order is a wish. An executive order is a president saying, I wish this could happen.
Correct.
I want this to happen.
Yes.
And then it's up to the courts to decide if the executive order meets constitutional criteria that it can stand up to that scrutiny and due diligence to either be cool, like, all right, well, yes, you checked all those boxes and we're not going to stand in the way of it. Would have been better if it had gone through Congress, but
right.
So, but it's cool. Or they issue injunctions against the executive order, which basically is like stops all of that in its tracks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the executive branch also commands the military. That means the National Guard only in Washington, D.C., because I really want to be super duper clear about this. The governor of your respective state is the commander-in-chief of your state's National Guard.
There you go. There you go.
Not the president. So they command the military. That's why we call them the commander-in-chief. So Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and the Coast Guard, right?
Yeah.
That's it. They command those. They also, here's the good part. Their job is to carry out the checklist, if you will, of federal laws.
Yeah.
That's it. Like literally everything I just said is all the executive branch does.
That's it.
They don't have the power to issue tariffs. That's Congress. They don't have the ability to take away birthright citizenship. That would take an amendment to the Constitution, which not only has to take 2/3 of the House and the Senate voting for it, but 2/3 of the United States would also have to ratify that amendment.
Also have to ratify it. Correct. Yeah.
So there's some. See, as I described how simple the executive branch's job is, and I use simple in quotation marks because I can't imagine the pressure of being the president like that. No. But their job is actually quite simple compared to what Congress and the Senate do. Right? It's actually quite simple.
Yeah.
And that is also laid out in Article 1 of the Constitution.
That part.
All right. So branch 3. Where are we, Paulette? Branch 3.
We are at the judicial.
Which,
now,
by the way, this is the final branch. There's only 3 people.
There's only 3 folks. Yep. And it
Okay,
is basically the guardian of the Constitution, if you will. It makes sure that laws are applied fairly. It protects your citizens' rights, and prevents the other branches from overstepping their authority. Are you guys really listening to what we're saying here? Because knowing that the executive branch has a very simple job to do and everything else is really up to Congress, your red flags, your ears should be peaked at this moment, right? Because if Congress is the one that is making all of these decisions flow through, it ain't so much about getting rid of your president as much as it is about making sure that you identify who those folks are in Congress now that you know what you know.
Which, I mean, and this is a discussion for another day, but
Yeah.
I would just like to bring up the point that this is why your local elections matter so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, not your governor, not your lieutenant governor, not your secretary of state, any of that, not the president even, but your Congress, not even your senator, to be honest. Your senator is important, but not as important as Congress. Well, not as important as the House, rather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your congressperson, your local council, whether it's a village board or common council, city council, whatever, and your school board. Those 4 elections have the biggest difference on your daily life.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Those are points that definitely need to be made. And I think we need to actually put a pencil in that as well, because we definitely need to talk about that and how important it is. And I'm squirreling just a little bit because I'm known to do that, but I also want to bring this up as well. Y'all, it is so important that we understand that we do not have room to not care. Because that's how we ended up where we currently are. And I also want to put this out here as well. This happened well before this current administration. We have just kind of been okay with things the way they are because things have been okay, quote unquote, according to what has been revealed to us. We think that everything has been okay. When in reality, there are some things that have always been questionable as far back as I can remember, as far as I've had breath in my body, and I've been paying attention to presidential candidates and what they've done once they've gotten in office. But the older that you get, I've noticed for me, Heather, that more and more people are not caring because they're caring about those things that matter to them the most, which are what? I got to eat. I got to have somewhere to live.
My kids got to go to school. They need new shoes. Somebody needs a doctor's appointment. My car, the brakes are going on my car, whatever. We understand like that. If ever there was a time for the saying life gets to lifing.
Yep.
We get it. We 100% get it. And if you don't have the bandwidth to absorb all the stuff coming at us on a daily basis, because let's be clear, folks, exhaustion is kind of the point.
It is.
It's the point. They want us tired so that we can be like, I can't care right now.
I can't care.
And so that's okay. We get it. It's overwhelming. We're overwhelmed.
Yep.
We're overwhelmed. Like just putting this episode together, if you listen.
They have no idea, do they?
Listen.
Oh
but the point we're trying to make is if you can find just a teensy bit of caring, make sure it's at your local level.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking. Okay, go on. Yeah. Sorry, judicial branch. Keep going.
No, it's okay. It was my fault. I started it, but
no,
okay.
I know. So I mean, ADHD is a thing. Like
it is, and I got it bad. All right, so the judicial branch, in short, really oversees all of them to make sure that everybody is playing their part. So let's get into that really quick. It's one of the 3 branches of the federal government. Now let's just review really quick. We just went over the executive branch. Heather made it super simple, but then you also have the very first one, which is your Congress, okay? And that is the legislative branch of the United States government. But let's talk about that judicial branch and why you need to know who they are and what they do. It is one of the 3 branches of the federal government that is going to go alongside with your legislative and your executive. It was created by Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution and is responsible for, one, interpreting your laws, ensuring they follow the Constitution, and resolving disputes. Okay? So it's the Supreme Court. That is the SCOTUS. You keep hearing about that. The Supreme Court of the United States is the full name, and it was created directly by the Constitution. Now, it's 9 justices, okay? Mm-hmm. There's 1 Chief Justice, and there's 8 associate judges. They're nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Did you hear what I just said? They're nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate.
Now, can I bring something up? I'm so sorry.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's 9 justices because we have 9 courts of appeal across the, well, there were nine courts of appeal. Now we have 13. And every time a courts of appeal has been established, they've added a Supreme Court justice.
Yes.
So we're behind by 4.
4. Yep.
We should technically have 13 Supreme Court justices, 1 for each court of appeal.
Why they haven't made any adjustments to that.
Well, Biden suggested it and people lost their shit.
Well, there's that. Wonder why.
Yeah.
Wonder
anyway, go ahead.
Why. Okay, because we could go down that rabbit hole. All right, now let's get back into it. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people really are kind of struggling with, and I'm struggling with this as well. They have a life tenure, unless, of course, they resign, retire, or are removed from impeachment, or they die. Okay, now they have the final say on constitutional issues and act as the ultimate interpreter of the law. Did y'all hear what I just said? So when you are putting people in position, I got a squirrel here. When you are putting people in position that are nominated by any current president, even if they are massively conservative, right? That's what you're going to end up with. And here's the thing. If they have a life tenure, do I need to say any more? Oh, okay. Go ahead and put the thinking caps back on. All right. Lower federal courts created by Congress under Article 3. So you have the SCOTUS and then you have the lower federal courts. 2 main levels below the Supreme Court. And it's 1, the U.S. Court of Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
Now they handle appeals from lower courts divided into 13 circuit
districts.
There you go. U.S. district courts are under the Court of Appeals, trial level courts where cases begin, and those are 94 districts nationwide. And then there are also those special courts. Now, those have been established by whom? The Congress for specific areas like tax court, bankruptcy court, U.S. Court of International Trade, U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans claims, and so forth. So you have those. Now, here are the powers of the judicial branch. Judicial review, that's established by Marbury and Madison in 1803. Courts can declare a law or executive action unconstitutional. This makes the judicial branch a key check on Congress and the president. Y'all having any problems yet? Are you picking up what I'm putting down right now?
So here's the thing, though. I do think that we need to note this. So for those of you who don't know, I am also a hyperlocal journalist for the Racine County Eye here in Wisconsin. And I talked to several constitutional law experts at Marquette University Law School, which is
shout out to Marquette.
Right? Shout out to the Warriors. And what they said, it's really kind of disturbing, but it like when you hear it the first time, you're like, what? But then as you settle into it, you're like, okay, this makes more sense. Courts are really only as powerful as the agencies that will enforce their rulings.
There you go.
So for anybody, so I just want to be really clear here. For the most part, when the Trump administration is going to court to argue their point, and if the court's like, yeah, no, they're not like putting up a huge fight, to be honest with you. They are adhering to what the courts are saying, which is why when grant monies are getting withheld and the court's like, you can't do that because that's Congress appropriated funding, they end up releasing the money, right?
Right.
However, if there was a ruling where they were like, we don't care what the court says, we're going to do whatever we want, it would then become incumbent on the federal Department of Justice to enforce what the court is saying. When you have a Department of Justice that is following the president's decree of we don't care what the courts are saying, that is when we have jumped. Do you remember the quicksand we always used to see on TV when we were kids, and we always thought that was a much bigger problem than it has actually turned out to be?
Right,
For us, in reality, that's when you jump into the quicksand. When the government doesn't want to abide by what the courts are saying. But that is really the power of the court comes through the agencies that can enforce what they're saying.
Excellent point. Thank you for that. And these are necessary, folks. I hope that you're hearing what we're putting down, because I'm hoping that it's allowing you to really gain some additional clarity that maybe you didn't have before, because we want you to really understand the simplicity of all of this, but how complex it has become, because there are people that do understand it a hell of a lot better than the average American Joe who's really not paying attention, and they know that. So they're getting away with the things that they're getting away with because they know you don't know. And they know you don't care because you're dealing with those everyday things.
Exactly. So, and the reason why we're bringing all of this up now, to be clear, I don't care who's the president. Like, I think this discussion is important no matter what. But the fact of what's been happening for the last 7 months and the dismantling of American government institutions at the rate at which it's been going is beyond disturbing. It's downright alarming. It is. And we should be hearing sirens in our head about it, to be frank with you. Yeah, yes, or like the tornado siren. That should be happening. Right. Okay. Yeah. Because these are the ways that the Trump administration has and this is going to be an abbreviated list because we've been talking for a while and we're going to need to wrap up soon. But this is an abbreviated list, and it's not going to go into a lot of detail. Again, we'll have show notes, and you can look up our sources and everything you want. Absolutely. But they have politicized the Department of Justice, right? Which means that they're pressuring the DOJ to investigate political opponents. They've interfered in cases involving their allies. The abuse of executive power comes with the frequent use of executive orders to bypass Congress. Remember, executive orders are wishes. So, but all of that creates disruption, right? Because an executive order comes out that says we're ending birthright citizenship. Everybody loses their minds. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And now it has to go into the courts to determine how constitutional that is. There's also declaring, and this has happened, I don't know, at least 4 times since January 20th, national emergencies to redirect funding. And, that's happened. They have done attacks on the judiciary. So they're publicly criticizing judges who have ruled against the Trump administration and questioning legitimacy, even though, so this is what they do publicly, right? We don't really think that this is right, and we question blah, blah, blah. But on the back end, they are adhering, right? So they're being a public mouth and force for, I don't know what they're trying to do with that. They're trying to just fire up their base. But on the back end, they really are paying attention to what the courts are telling them. So that's bad and good. That's like the bad news with the good news. And let's be frank, they are, in terms of the elections, which Paulette mentioned with what's going on in Texas, that is a mid-decade redistricting, which is almost unheard of. But they're also, remember after the 2020 election, they were pressuring state officials, especially in Georgia and some even in Wisconsin, to alter certified election results, saying that Trump won a state that he didn't. They've also encouraged interference in the democratic process, such as the January 6th, 2021 insurrection, which was trying to interrupt Vice President Pence from certifying the election results. Now, if you notice, you didn't really hear anything on January 6, 2025, because Vice President Kamala Harris went and did her job and went home. There was no drama about it because she was following established practice, tradition, and most importantly, the law. So
it's just disgusting. At that moment when you said it is a law, I remember her swearing in a woman, I forgot her name, and she was shaking hands, and the husband didn't even want to shake her hand, and it was absolutely disgusting. Anyway, enough of that. So so here's the thing. There's so many different things, but at the end of the day, real world examples that you all are living examples of how your SCOTUS and the judicial branch can work is this. Number one, Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954. I'm sure you've heard of it. Ending racial segregation in public schools. Familiar? You probably didn't know that went to the Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade, 1973. It recognized constitutional right to abortion. That was actually overturned by Dobbs versus Jackson in 2022.
I think we need to also verify it's not actually abortion that was codified in Roe v. Wade. It was the right to privacy.
It was the right to Please say it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The right to privacy. So that what you talk about with your doctor remains between you and your doctor.
That's right. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. And so now it's been overturned because unfortunately they made it about abortion. There you go. So thank you for clarifying. And Bush versus Gore, 2000, effectively decided the outcome of the presidential election. And I'm sure a lot of you guys actually remember that and how I'm still confused about that whole thing.
The hanging chads, remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, my eyeball.
So even though what has been happening the last 7 months, it's disheartening, and we get it. It's overwhelming. It can be distressing, but there are ways that we can restore and I would hope improve our democratic, what we consider our democratic norms of our country, right? There are ways to do that. Number one, and this is the most short term. Now, I would like to preface this by saying, I don't think the Democrats are the answer. They're not the answer, right? With the answer, right? I don't think that. But they are the best case short-term scenario that we have right now is the midterm elections.
I agree.
Why Trump is trying so hard to redistrict Texas. But of course, then we have California Governor Gavin Newsom coming in and being like, oh, you want to feel froggy? Go ahead and jump because we're going to redistrict California.
Yep.
Like, right? There's going to be some, this is going to be very interesting. Anyway, but if Democrats can regain control of the House and the Senate, hell, even the Senate would, even the House would be
that
great.
would help.
But if they could regain both, at least it restores legislative oversight.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to strengthen the checks on the executive branch and restore some of the balance that we've been talking about. So Senate nominees, like one of the authors of the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 becoming the guy who's overseeing the Office of Management and Budget, like anyway, or voting to gut Medicaid, and now they're saying the pay as you go clause has not been kicked, but it has, so Medicare is going to be affected. So that's number one, right? So in the short term, the extreme short term, our best hope really is that the Democrats can regain Congress, both houses.
Absolutely.
But if we can't have both houses, can we just get the House, right? Like if we can't have both, just the House.
Yeah. Right.
So the second one we can do is with the Democrats taking control of Congress again, what that means is that elections are going to proceed without incident in 2028. And that is, I think, kind of the biggest thing that's going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And Paulette and I really discussed this next one. We talked about whether or not to even say this.
Ciao.
But we both have looked at the definition of a cult. We've looked up examples of cults. And we are both of the opinion that MAGA is a cult.
Absolutely.
With Trump as its leader.
Absolutely, yes.
So, do you want to talk about that point?
Well, let me put it this way. There's Republican, there's Democrat, and then there's MAGA.
Yes.
And who is currently in this administration running things are people who have very interesting views, mainly who are heavily conservative and who call themselves these. They say they're Christians, but
they're white Christian nationalists, and there's nothing Christian about them.
Thank you. So they're white. Thank you. I'm trying to be nice with my words and not cuss. Okay. So these.
Don't say that word.
Right, because I had to catch myself like, ooh, the bone was getting ready to fall out my mouth. I'm trying to be professional. Yeah, Lee, she's asking me to say the things that I want to say. So listen, white Christian nationalists are who we have in office. Now I'm going to tell you something. Donald Trump is not a white Christian nationalist. What he does know is that as long as he has them as a base, he is good to go and he can do what the hell he wants. Let's talk about that. So he's able to, and let's also be clear on a couple of things that we recognized today being August 20th, is this. Number one, Stephen Miller, we need to be concerned about a couple of things. He showed his face today. Number two, Pete Hegseth was with him, and Mr. Never Trump himself, J.D. Vance, was also there as he verbally called folks who were protesting in Washington, D.C., and that would be Stephen Miller. He called them out of their names, called them 90-year-olds. They need to go home. They need to go home and knit, XYZ. We are living in the most violent of X, Y, and Z and so forth, and this, that, and the third. Y'all, it's so many things that I want to say, so I'm just putting in the little words like this, that, and the third for that very reason. Now I'm squirreling, and I have forgotten where in the hell I was supposed to go. But what I'm saying is that these are the bases of your people who are a part of this MAGA cult. Okay. What I want you all to understand in all of this is that there is absolutely a difference between a Republican and someone who calls themselves a part of MAGA, and it is a cult. They believe what you tell them.
No, and there's very little. They just swallow it, and when you bring reality to them and say, "But this is like here." We have receipts on why this is true. They will immediately change. But what Paulette is avoiding saying is that the best way to disband a cult is for its leader to go away.
Oh, thank you. I was trying my best not to say it, but you said it better than I could because I was trying to say the loud part really quiet. But the leader of the cult that is the way to dismantle. We have seen it time and time again, where that has happened, where things like, can we bring up Jim Jones?
Yep. Here's the thing. Cults thrive when there's a charismatic authoritarian leader at leader, right? Trump for MAGA is that person. Yep. And so if he were no longer available to lead MAGA, there's every possibility that the cult falls apart because J.D. Vance, who is the vice president, would then become the president, doesn't garner the vehement approval that Trump does. And so historical patterns have shown that personality-driven cults decline when there is a leadership change.
Correct.
And that's just how it goes.
And here's the thing, to your point, we're talking about someone who has literally said out of his own mouth, never Trump. right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're also talking about a guy that has been on more freaking vacations since they've been in office than I care to count, but I should, because it's my tax dollars that are helping to fund the rivers being risen so that he and his family can fish. Let's talk about that. See, I could go down that road. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to
we're not going to do that today. We're going to do that today. So, okay. So the best, those are the best case scenarios.
Yes.
In how we can start to regain some of the ground that has been lost over the last 7 months. And to be clear, do I think that everything in the American government runs as it should? God, hell no.
No.
Hell no. Do I think it could be rebuilt better? Yes, of course.
Yes.
And if there was a change of leadership, we would have that opportunity, right? We would have that opportunity. What I am afraid of are some worst case scenarios. And that is that we will continue to see executive power become even more centralized, right? They're going to bypass checks from Congress and the courts, right? So just kind of cutting out those other two branches of government.
No, we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, in some instances we definitely are, but I still think that there are some there's some footholds that are holding. We could see increased mis and disinformation. We could see more institutions like elections and courts and the free press become delegitimized. And unfortunately, there could be armed skirmishes.
And we're going to see that. Unfortunately, I hated to cut you off, but those are the things that are of a concern for me, because the level of music festivals that we're seeing, the level of protests that we're seeing, that are coming up. And let's pause just for a second. Something that you brought up. Regular media, the news, the larger platforms are not talking about this. They're not reporting on the protesting. You're not seeing the defiance that is happening on the ground in cities around the country, because they don't want us to see it, because we already know that basically if we see it, we're going to get that empowerment feature or that vibe in our head. And then there will be more of that, and they don't want that to trickle down. So you're not seeing it. So do I find myself surprised that Fox News isn't reporting it? Absolutely the hell not. Am I finding myself surprised about ABC, CBS, or NBC, who is now MS Now? So no, you're not going to see it. I think that, to your point, we are going to see more arms. There was a woman who was literally just arrested for she took plans to come to DC to literally remove the head of the snake. And she was arrested, I believe it was yesterday.
Really? I did not hear that. Oh my God.
Yes. So my God. Those are the things that they're not talking about in regular news, which is so important. And one of the reasons why the Rivalry Report is so necessary. You're going to, first of all, find more information like this, information that you need, and hopefully that have empowered you. But unfortunately, like you said, do I see the tip of a civil war? I do.
Yeah,
I do.
It's there.
Yeah,
it's definitely there. So I want to talk. I can't find it now. Of course, I can't find it. Oh wait.
Take your time. Take your time.
No, I got it. Okay, so here's some of the other topics that we're going to be talking about. So today was Civics 101, and giving you just an idea of who we are, why we decided to do this. So next episode, these are going to be weekly on Wednesdays. You'll be able to find us on the Rivalry Report on our YouTube channel. Also, I really want to encourage everybody, before I go through the list of what we'll talk about, I really want you to please engage in the comments. We will be there. We will come into the conversation. And if I can get the technology to work right, we'll actually be live on YouTube. So we can do the live chat. Well, that
yeah.
But it didn't work out for this one. So the second episode that we're going to talk about is elections, campaign strategy, and psychological warfare, which is basically how emotions are manipulated during elections through the use of race, class, and fear. We're also going to talk about PACs, which are political action committees, super PACs, and lobbying, and how that has an outsized influence on the laws that are getting discussed and passed. And then I'm going to go through the first 5, and then we'll review another one. Episode 4, we're going to talk about the business of government. So this came up because all we hear is talk about cuts to Medicaid, cuts to SNAP. Medicare is now going to get affected, all these cuts. But what we're not hearing is the discussion of revenue.
Right.
Because you have to talk about the other side of the balance sheet. So we're going to discuss the business of government. Revenue and cuts. And then episode 5 is going to be, which we already touched on, gerrymandering. So redistricting Wisconsin, we have I think 2 lawsuits before our state Supreme Court to redistrict our state, which would help reduce the influence of Republicans in Congress by putting, because here's what nobody's saying. Texas actually has way more Democratic voters than they do Republicans.
Yes, they do.
And yet more Republicans hold seats. Why is that, Paulette?
Tell it. Go ahead and say it. Gerrymandering.
Right? So those are just a few of the topics that we're going to be talking about. This is going to be a 10-episode season, our first season here. And so we really want to hear from you. Like, what do you want to know? Like, we gave you 5, but like, we think we know what you want to know, or we know what we want to talk about. But maybe it's not what you want to talk about. What questions do you have that we could put together an episode to answer them? And then, you know, engage with us in the comments. We want to know, like, where do you stand on all of this? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? How are you getting through the day? Are you even thinking about it, like we were saying, because life gets to lifing?
Life is in the way. Yeah.
We get it. We get it. I don't know if you noticed, but I had to get up and close the door because my granddaughter ran in here.
Right.
Life gets to lifing.
Life gets to lifing. And I almost burnt cookies. So, yeah.
That's worse. That's like, how are you going to burn some cookies? What kind of cookies?
Chocolate chip pecan.
Damn it, Paulette.
I know. Almost. So,
okay. So it's an almost, not a for
my daughter and said, hey, take those out the oven. So, yeah. I think this is going to be a really good season. It is important. Y'all, come back. First of all, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share this particular episode and the upcoming episodes. What I am going to also say is that you'll be able to cite everything that we're talking about, and the transcript itself. Guess what we're going to do? It's going to be an article on brownstoneworldwide.com. Okay.
Yeah, and I will use it to put it on my Substack as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in our show notes, we will link to both.
Yes, which will be perfect, because then you can go ahead and follow and subscribe and do all the things. But here's the reason why this is so super important, because in the middle of all of the noise, we want you to stand back, take a breath, and say, what superpowers can I use that are already in my arsenal to prepare for the next step that is happening in this country? And where do I want to stand in that? I need to be able to make better decisions based upon real knowledge, the truth, the history of this country, the Constitution, understanding government, and knowing exactly what that means for you in whatever part of the country that you're in. And I'm so tired of misinformation, and it's just time for us to do something about it. So we're definitely going to be talking about some other things as well. But this right here is, it's one of the things that I find myself talking the most about. People that don't understand the 4th, the 5th, and the 14th Amendment, not understanding the power of the 5th Amendment, and not really understanding any of them actually, but the ones that are the most important, and not understanding that it's for everyone and not just for those who were born in this country.
Yep. And it's also
So,
really important. Again, these are the three branches of government.
yep.
Legislative, which is Congress, the House and the Senate. Executive branch, which is the president, the vice president, the cabinet, and the agencies that operate under them. And the
Absolutely.
judicial branch, which
Yeah.
at a federal level is the courts of appeal, and then the Supreme Court.
The
Those
Supreme
are the
Court.
three really like the critical foundation of how the American government is put together. And then if you notice, your state government is also kind of the
Yeah.
same.
Right.
You got to know these things. You got to know how they interact. You got to know how they balance and check and balance each other, right? That's what's important.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. We appreciate your attention, and we can't wait to hear from you. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Yes, this has been the Rivalry Report. Bye.